The People's Democratic Party in Kano has flagged off its campaigns and presented flags to its candidates. Speaking at the event, Senator representing Kano Central at the National Assembly, Ibrahim Shekarau, urged members of the party to stand tall and work hard for the success of the party in Kano State. Deputy Chairman of the PDP Northwest Zone, Senator Bello Hayatu Gwarzo, and the governorship candidate of the party, Sadiq Wali, said the party would win Kano.
Are ready to deliver Atiku Abubakar as the President of the Federal Republic of Nigeria come February 25th, God willing, as well as delivering Governor Sadiq Wali as the elected governor come March 2023.
Because today a lot of doubters have been proven wrong. PDP is alive, is well, and is going to move forward in Kano State. Our promise is that we'll restore the former glory of Kano, we'll restore the economic prosperity of Kano, we'll make sure we expand on agriculture, on industry, and we'll make sure that at the end of the day, our education system is not surpassed anywhere in Africa.
Well, looking at some political issues ahead of the 2023 general elections, we're being joined by the Daniel Bwala, PDP spokesperson, Atiku Abubakar Presidential Campaign Council. Glad to have you join me, Daniel.
Thank
All
you.
right, let me first start before we talk about, okay, maybe I should start with the INEC offices. We're talking about politics generally and what is happening. The INEC offices that is being burnt down, you know, in some parts of the country, particularly in the East. What's your take on that?
Well, it's part of the pattern that we have seen orchestrated by the ruling party, the APC. If you recall, a number of times that we have had to attend cities for campaign, in fact, even the Labour Party, one or two occasions where they had to, go for campaign, we were both harassed by members of the ruling party. And that's because they know they are not popular. They failed the Nigerian people. They have taken people into poverty, so they don't have any point of bringing people out of poverty. So the only strategy they resort to is that of intimidation, so that when you begin to see this kind of heinous activities all over the places, you have a situation where you have voter apathy, where somebody will say, if crisis is ensuing at this moment, then there is no hope that on that day my life will be spared.
I hope what I'm not hearing you say is that you're accusing APC of burning down INEC offices.
Yes.
Is that what you're saying?
Yes, that's what I'm saying.
That
clearly.
is a heavy, that's a very, I mean, what empirical data do you have to prove that?
Because
Why
of
would
the
they
pattern.
want to do
so
that?
This is the empirical data. Pattern is one of the ways in intelligence or in psychology you assess the culpability of someone. So for example, if there's a pattern that is linked to a particular political party, and I give you a good example about 5 states of the Federation. You have a state where there was an outcry that they tried to infiltrate the INEC website and register people illegally. CUPP raised the alarm. That's empirical evidence, because
that
since
was
then,
an allegation by CUPP.
But it has not been
He
disputed.
did not, but he didn't have any evidence to prove what he was saying.
Yes, but the fact is, if I level allegation, if I say something against you, first you have to refute. What is not denied is deemed to have been admitted. That's the basic principle of law. If they deny that, then the burden now shifts to him to prove the existence or otherwise of that allegation. But like I told you, I said the bully is the governing party. And what they are doing stems from a pattern we have observed. And we feel this is deeply troubling. In fact, that's the reason why Atiku Abubakar and the team were in U.S. Department of State earlier in the year, a few months ago, where that concern was raised to the U.S. State Department. And thankfully, they said that in the days leading to the election, they were going to announce stiffer sanctions, on individuals or even agencies that are involved in any form of practice or practices that will compromise the elections.
Interesting that you have mentioned the U.S. because just quite recently, the President of the United States in the U.S. Africa Summit was praising the President for his stance on leaving a good legacy for democracy I mean, that doesn't seem to rhyme with what you've just said.
So maybe you need to understand what international diplomacy is. If you understand what international diplomacy is, then you know from that realm, it is not just easy for you to point at someone. And in any case, I don't have a problem with President Buhari. Indeed, he's trying his best. Indeed, he told the world he wants to leave a legacy. I believe him. But Buhari is a person, the president. The presidency is an institution, and the party goes beyond just him. The people we're talking about misbehaving is not President Buhari. We're talking about political party and their subjects who have failed even when they are called upon to denounce, to condemn certain acts that they never did. When we were called to come and sign the peace pact, I hope you know that the candidate for APC was not there. Why was he not there?
I couldn't tell you. Maybe he was not in town.
Oh, obviously, he left. He traveled out to avoid signing. That's the point. So that's the pattern. Listen, you
but
said
that he had a place to go or something to do and he didn't sign it does not mean that he supports what you're saying, Violence.
So let me give you
it does
this.
not mean that.
You're sitting here. If I told you that yesterday when I came around this building, somebody in your TV station did A, B, and C, expectedly because you're an honorable man, you will condemn that act. When you do that, then you will tell me you're going to investigate. If I said this and this is what happened, and you look me in the face, blink your eyes, and you continue as if I never said anything, it's a pattern. That's what we're saying.
Well, let's move on to some of the things. I was listening a while ago to the chairman of your party. You know, he said, we will not accept division. Yeah, that was what he said. That was a statement. But there's already one, and a big one at that. You have 5 governors of your party who have totally distanced themselves from the party, but they're still in the party.
And has that affected what we're doing?
No, but that's a division.
No, that's not a division as far as we're concerned, because we are on. Let me tell you this. If you look at the strict interpretation or stricter sense of what division is, it means it must assume a certain magnitude where it inhibits your growth, your progression. In this case, we have 5 governors who have an agitation or complaint, whatever it is. But whatever the situation and whatever their conduct is, it has so far not affected our operations. You have seen that we were the first political party to constitute the campaign, first political party to be involved in most about everything. As I speak to you, we are the leading political party in all activities. And all of our movement, engagement, and activities and town hall, we have been able to prove beyond reasonable doubt, in fact, even to the neutrals, that we are more than ready to, go into the election. So we are not perturbed. We continue to ask that they come on for us to go, but you need to understand beavers. If you only know what beavers is, then you know that it's going to be an election of the people and not election of big personalities. That's the first point. The second point is this. Conflict is a natural phenomenon, it's part of life. In your house, you have your kids disagreeing, but disagreement does not mean that the party is divided. We don't have 2 national working committee. We don't have 2 national executive committee. We don't have 2 board of trustees.
Even
we don't have 2 campaign
even when
council.
they're throwing their support for other candidates, still not divided.
So even with the support to the other candidates, themselves and the candidate have not been able to hinder our progress.
No, it's not about hindering your progress. It's about the fact that they're in the party, but they're not agreeing. They are at variance with what the party is doing.
So you have now changed from division to at variance. There are 2 separate words.
No, but that's division.
With 2 separate connotations.
No, but I mean,
division.
this is not about semantics.
Let me tell you what the Supreme Court said about division. The case came to the Supreme Court many years ago about division, in a political party. And they said that division must be of a nature that it creates a parallel system of administration in a political party. So if you say there is a division in PDP, you must establish that there are 2 or more national working committee, 2 or more national executive committee, 2 or more board of trustees, 2 or more campaign organization. As I speak to you, we don't have any. We have 1 campaign organization, 1 board of trustee, 1 national working committee, 1 national executive committee, 1 common front.
All right, let's take it higher. Your presidential candidate has said that he's going to restore trade and business in the East. He's going to do this and that and stop insecurity. But he has not been able to say in black and white how he's going to do that in the East. That's one. And then second, in the East, yeah. That's one. And then secondly, don't you think you have... what are your chances in the East? PDP has always been... East, rather, has always been a PDP, tended towards PDP, let me put it like that. But now you have a real challenge in the person of Peter Obi, who is from the East. So what are your chances in the East? That's one. Then secondly, the first question I asked you, how is he going to restore security in the East? The way it is.
So I want to correct the notion that he has not been able to say in blue or black and white. He has actually said it. It is in the manifesto. You have not been able to see it in black and white. That is number one. So I will answer the second and I'll tell you how he wants to do it. Now, the second one, you have seen that we went to Anambra, where Peter Obi comes from. We were well received by the chief executive officer of that state, the governor, who comes from a different political party than ours. And you saw the kind of reception we got in the East. In fact, in one of the moderating sessions, somebody said an Anambra person founded the PDP, and that PDP is Anambra and Anambra is PDP. That is one. Number two, we were in Imo. You would think that we were in Kano or somewhere in Sokoto because of the crowd that gathered. Now let me tell you something about Labour and Peter Obi. They are just like Morocco, right? They came to the World Cup, kitty kitty kata kata, kitty kitty kata, and people were thinking they were the new phenomenon. When the match got settled, they ran out of steam and they were sent home. Argentina, which starts with A and Atiku also starts with A, brought experience to bear. And at the end of the day, he won the election.
So you're encouraging yourself that because Argentina won the World Cup.
No, I'm saying because experience, what we need, let me tell you, what we need in the 2023 election is the presidential candidate who has experience. That's the point I'm trying to make. Why? Because we are in a very difficult situation in Nigeria. You know that the economy, we don't have time to talk about numbers. If you talk about insecurity, and education is at the base. So anybody who will become president May 2023 cannot be a learner. All these other candidates were governors. The man who needs to be a president must have an experience of federal government. You must know how to manage the East and the West, and the North and the South crisis. He did that as a vice president. You must know how to deal with the economy. He chaired the economic recovery process that brought about revolution in the telecom.
But the complaint against him was that he sold off most of our assets for pittance.
So that's the notion that people with small minds had, because he has taken his time to explain. Privatization process is governed by an act in Nigeria. There is a bidding process. It must be transparent. In fact, he is doubling down to say that part of our bid for economic recovery will be to open up this economic for private players to take a role, which is not what you're seeing now. What we are seeing now is expanding the tax net to the point where you have deposit tax, withdrawal tax. If you have your money in the bank, they still take it. Even when they say there is a revolution in agriculture, you would have thought that the rice, which they said was a breakthrough in Nigeria, one of the proof of food sufficiency is what? Stability of price in the market, or even the low price in the market. But rice is about 50,000. When one of their spokesmen was confronted, he said they gave subsidy in seedlings and money, but people still take the rice to the borders, and that is why we have insufficient rice in the market.
Before I let you go, let's just talk briefly about what happened in Jos, because I'm just bringing it up because your party too, when that happened with the ruling party, held it against their own candidate. I mean, when he said the gaffe, that's how papers described it. He called AP, then of course said, I mean PDP.
Right.
I mean, what do you have to say about that?
You know, there's a difference between a slip of the tongue, a gaffe, and a pattern which suggests the cognitive ability of that person. You only have been able to mention one for all of the times that the campaign started with Atiku. But there is really not a single campaign on which you don't see a comedy skit from the old Progressive Congress. In fact, to a point where people now are saying that he needs to recheck his cognitive capability, because it is not just the slip of the tongue, it is incoherency which demonstrates a sort of a situation.
You know that when a guy, I mean, because, okay, well, we're leaving it here, but I'm just saying this because in Jos, I mean, a man spoke for 28 minutes and then says PD and then says APC. And people
no, he did not speak for 28 minutes. He read.
He
read the teleprompter.
He even spoke at some point because I was there, covered it live, so he spoke at some point. But thank you so much, Daniel Bwala, for being on the program.
Thank you.
News 9. Thank you for being